If there is one thing I always begged Hoyoverse to change about Genshin, that's the Battle Pass weapon selection. Not only we've had the same weapons to pick from it for almost 3 years now, but also their effects have grown to be obsolete, and despite their secondary stats still being a great crit rate increasing one, nowadays, even at high refinement, they're mostly just options that are on par with other budget weapons, sometimes even freely obtainable ones. With Fontaine's arrival, Hoyoverse has finally satisfied our wishes and is going to fill the Battle Pass with new exciting weapons. In this video, I'll be analyzing how impactful they are on several characters, to determine how valuable they are in general. First of all, as a baseline, I think that to be good, a Battle Pass weapon should be at the very least a top tier 4-star option. By this I mean that at high refinement, it should be better than most if not all the other 4-star options in the game for some characters. The reason is that a Battle Pass weapon is not cheap to get, and max refining it will require $60 right out of your pocket. While it's true that the Battle Pass also comes with other goodies, if you've been buying it for a while, you're probably stuck with the resources it provides already, so the Battle Pass weapon will be the main appeal. Now, let's see how the weapons stack up to these expectations. First, the Sword, my favorite of the bunch. This thing looks incredibly powerful by even just glancing at its effects, since its passive buffs skill and burst damage significantly, and it also increases crit rate after skill and burst hits. Based on the passive, it's easy to see who this weapon will fit well on, which is obviously characters who make up their skill or burst, or both, their main offensive options. Basically, a character like Alhaitham, who can maximize the crit rate buffs during his standard rotation, will fully take advantage of this weapon, and in this scenario the new Battle Pass option ends up smashing the competition at 4-star level, reaching the heights of 5-star options like Jade Cutter when at high refinement. This is just a stellar achievement for a Battle Pass weapon. Even on characters who can't maximize the crit rate part of its passive, the weapon performs incredibly well, since it still buffs burst and skill damage as a baseline, so characters like Ayaka or Shincho, who deal most if not all of their rotation damage through burst, hugely benefit from it as opposed to something like Black Sword, so an average 4-star option. Of course, however, for a character like Ayaka, such a high crit rate weapon might not be ideal, since she gets a lot of crit rate for free from her artifacts and elemental resonance, basically making any crit rate substat a waste with it. The only exception on this list is Albedo, where Cinnabar's Pinball is still the best option overall. Let's move on to the Polearm, which is another weapon I really like. This one is pretty simple. If there are 3 elements on the team, it will provide the holder with a significant and unconditional elemental mastery buff. This benefits considerably all those damage dealing characters on reaction teams, so on-field carries like Sino and Hutao, or off-field carries like Xianling. This weapon is definitely a bit less impressive compared to the Sword, as it doesn't just outright smash the competition here, also because current polearms in the game are pretty good. Still, it does pretty well, surpassing White Tassel on Sino by a considerable amount at Refinement 5, which puts it above Deathmatch Refinement 5 as well. Same thing goes for Hutao and Xianling. It's considerably above their best 4-star options at max refinement, namely Deathmatch and the Catch respectively, something that kinda puts this weapon at a 5-star level for them. Moving on, the Claymore isn't nearly as pretty as the previous 2 weapon types. It has a pretty weird passive, which provides different buffs depending on which element has been applied on the holder. For reference, by applied I mean the element status that appears above the character's HP bar when it's affected by an element. The buffs are honestly not really impressive when taken singularly, but they might be interesting if combined. Sadly, there aren't really great teams that can generate both of those effects consistently for Claymore users. As a result, the weapon stacks up pretty badly to a cast of 4-star Claymore that is not actually too shabby, as Akumaru and Serpent Spine go well on a number of characters. Even at Refinement 5, the weapon just doesn't look good enough to be worth its price on any of the characters that can use it. The bow is a bit better. Its passive will generate an extra hit after a charge attack has been thrown, which will will cause enemies that get hit by it to receive increased charge attack damage with a cooldown of 10 seconds. It's unclear how much AoE this hit has, but it's safe to say this one might not scale too well in multi-target scenarios. Either way, giving it the benefit of the doubt, it's a pretty decent option. On Ganyu, it can beat Prototype Bow by an inch at Refinement 5, which actually puts it in range of weapons like Amos. Pretty good. On Tignari, the story is different, because the weapon has a high attack main stat, which isn't that great for him. As a result, the good old slingshot defends itself pretty well from the aggression of the new Battle Pass weapon. Let's end it on a promising note. The Catalyst is extremely good at a glance, but there is a kicker: there is nobody that can really use it well right now. It's incredibly stacked all around, with a massive crit rate secondary stat, alongside a HP and elemental mastery buffing passive that is not so restricted, although it's clearly meant for off-field characters. Currently, there is no offensive Catalyst user that can take advantage of that HP buff well, but the Catalyst still does well nonetheless, managing to be in range with some of the best 4-star options on somebody like Yae, regardless of the refinement level. This is a weapon I predict to age incredibly well, because its effect will definitely find a home on a character that is specifically able to take advantage of it. Overall, I would currently rate weapons like this. The sword is definitely the best option, by being comparable to 5-star weapons on multiple characters already. In second place, the Polearm, which is consistently competitive or better than great 4-star option on multiple characters. In third place, the Catalyst, which has the potential to surpass the Polearm since it's just absurd all around, but there is just no perfect user for it right now. In fourth place, the Bow, quite decent as a baseline, but with a passive that might not do too well in AoE. In fifth place, the Claymore, a weapon that, like the Catalyst, might age better if teams that can take advantage of its passive fully shape up, but whose current value is just not that great. I'm pretty happy about these weapons as a whole. Sure, there are a few misses, but the good ones are so great that even if you're someone who spends money on the game, you might probably find a use for them. I'm done for today. As always, if you enjoyed the video, make sure to leave a thumbs up, a comment and subscribe. See you next time!